This is my best kind of show notes because we didn't touch one of them, not even one of them. I'm not sure which one is Paul Rudd and which one is Lane Green.
Final card here is the ultimate outcome.
Today is Take Your Dog to Work Day.
Oh, like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. Without further ado, his debut.
Sweet Caroline.
Everybody say hello to Sammy. Is it not good?
I'm just pausing so that you just are at the front of your screen.
I'm so enormously flattered.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
I'm gonna have to take a picture of this.
No, this is agape. This is love.
I really enjoyed this. You did do your homework. You asked great questions.
I'm flattered. Thank you. You just made my day.
Look at you! You are insane.
How did I do that?
You're
how
insane.
Did I do that?
You're insane.
Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to a very special episode of Corona TV. I am outside. You can see the cleanup has taken place. It looks beautiful again. And this is the first pre-recorded show. And I am actually on vacation right now, a little mini vacation. It's not a staycation, but a road trip. And I thought I would try something different, see if it works. And if it does, we'll do more of it. And if it doesn't, we won't. I'm not going to do anything more than attempt to bring a few very special people onto the show straight away. So in no particular order, Mr. Tom Morris, the world's happiest public philosopher. Mr. Steve Garfield from stevegarfield.com. My copywriting muse, Mr. Jan Zlotnick. My camera muse and guru, Mr. Chip Griffin. The rose amongst the thorns, not Seth, sorry, but Amy Rika. And then finally, and last but not least, Seth Sparks. Did that work, guys? Wow, look at that.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah.
Good job.
We are the Jaffe Bunch.
Yeah. Seven is enough. But yeah, I mean, it's amazing. Let's do a little plug for StreamYard first of all, because I'm doing this on my iPhone. So Seth, here are my camera angles. These are my own camera angles. When I say Seth, I meant Chip, but Seth too. So I'm using an iPhone, and as you can see, 7 of us on the screen at the same time. It's pretty cool. And now you're probably wondering who should talk first, because normally I know to pause and then my guest talks. So here's what we're going to do. You guys are on today because you are very special to me. And it's not even that you were a guest on the show, as obviously Tom was. It's the fact that you guys have come to the Zoom after show more than once. And if you've come for at least 3 or 4 or 5 times, to me, you're a regular. And so I wanted to kind of share the platform today and turn it over to you guys. And the way today is going to work is very simple. I'm going to pick on one of you, and I'm going to ask you a little icebreaker question, and then whatever is on your mind, whatever topic you want to discuss, I'll let you introduce the topic. I'll maybe ask you a question, or I'll just turn it over to the panel and have you guys just have a conversation, and me too. So should I pick someone randomly? I know I'm picking.
You're the host.
I know I'm picking. I'm gonna start off with you, Mr. Jan Zlotnick.
I felt your finger on my shoulder, so it worked.
Exactly. So Jan, my question to you, to just start us off, is we've known each other for years and years and years, but what was it about Corona TV and me starting this that piqued your attention? Was it just serendipity? Was it luck? And what made you stay?
Well, I don't know if Sarah, who was it, Dippity, had anything to do with it, but maybe I think it goes back to the first time that we met, which was when I had an agency a long time ago, and one of the common threads and a theme about that agency was the word rethink. And when you started this show, it made me rethink or think that what you were doing was rethinking how this pandemic would affect all of us and affect you and what you're going to do about it, and not dwell on, what it was, the negative sides of it, but the optimistic sides of it, and bearing the device, letting all of the foibles of technology be right out there. I think one of your first shows was you were actually going to a clinic to get tested. Yeah. And that just made me feel like I found this place. And I refer to this when I do my branding and marketing help for clients, that if there's one word that you're looking for, when you're looking for the truth about a brand, the essence about a brand or anything, it's the word home, H-O-M-E. There's just a sense of a place that not only makes you feel safer, but makes you feel alive. And that's what your show is doing. And I think that connection holds true today. So I thank you for that.
No, I thank you for those kind words. So that sounded like a topic in of itself, but do you have something on your mind, which is rhetorical? Because I know you always have at least one thing on your mind.
Well, since Tom has joined the group, he's exponentially impacted the volume of my mind and thoughts about the Stoics and it's like what Mark said today. Mark Marshy said he comes with the words, and so I love that. But I think the thing that I can maybe bring to the table today is something that I've been thinking about, and I think it does come full circle with things I learned in this group and from you, Joseph. And that is, there's a real call. I'm on other marketing group forums and calls, and there's a real thing about speed to market today, especially in e-commerce, and how it's possible to just get to market super fast and learn while you make mistakes and just keep pumping the gas. And I get how that is helpful in some ways, but I also get, because of my basic belief that you really have to slow think what the story's about and what a brand stands for, that we ought to get away from what we're seeing in the whole universe now, especially politically, which is polarization. There's no need to look at marketing as being something where the speed is an advantage or a disadvantage. I think it can be both. And it makes me think that if you skip entirely or you forget to kind of layer peel a conversation with a customer or an employee to get to the story, that you're really just this rocket that's spewing fuel and going real fast, but not going anywhere and not doing anything to help anyone. So regardless of all the technology and all the good things that we're learning, I think there's something to be said in this pandemic, which I believe has slowed us down in some regards, maybe depressingly so, but to take that stillness, that stoicness, that stoicism stillness, and not lose that when you're applying it to your work. No matter how fast you can go, to have a conversation with someone, to read between the lines of that, is going to get you to a story that can hold for any kind of marketing challenge you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. I'm only going to make a quick comment and then I'll turn it over to everyone else, which is I did a project years and years ago for Pepsi, and I actually spoke to one of the people that I interviewed. Actually was a philosopher, and he spoke about the difference between fast culture and slow culture, and spoke about how Coke was slow culture and how Pepsi was fast culture, and showed how when either of them had lost their way, they switched over, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, from fast to slow, slow to fast. But the point that I want to make is, I think the answer here clearly and moving forward It's the and I think the art and the science of moving quickly and moving slowly and knowing when to push and when to pull back. That seems to be the key. You know, the key for me was with the start of Corona TV is I didn't overthink it. I just did it. And then I made mistakes along the way, and I started to refine and evolve, and in some cases there was tremendous speed to market, but in other cases, like with monetization, I'm moving really slowly. And you know this, I've set myself a goal of 2 years to perfect this craft. And my first milestone is coming up, which will be 100 interviews. And then and so there's lots of little checkpoints and milestones in place that will help me maybe find the difference between fast and slow and find the happy medium. So let me open it up to the rest of you. Thoughts, comments, pushback, agreements, disagreements. You want to, feel free to just address Jan directly, and I'll just hold the iPhone like so.
Yeah, I have a point. Jan, what do you think about this? It strikes me, based on what you said, that speed can be an easy way to get attention. But if you don't have any substance to keep the attention, you've just basically wasted your time. I see that in a lot of people's lives. They're setting off fireworks to get your attention, but there's nothing to really attend to once the fireworks are over. And it sounds like you're taking what to a philosopher seems a much wiser approach, right? Build substance. I mean, Plato gave us this famous distinction between appearance and reality, saying that most people live just in a world of appearances, which he considered a world of illusions. Now, those of us who appreciate appearances would never want to denigrate appearances, but we know we've got to build substance behind that. And your idea of home connected with that with me right away, right? Because that's a substantive concept. That's a concept that has a lot of depth to it, has a lot of connections to it. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
I have a question. Does the concept of home infer safety and conservative? Or because right now there are a lot of bold choices and bold decisions that businesses and brands need to make. And I love the saying, a ship is safest in its harbor, but that's not what ships are for. Mm-hmm. And none of us are captains of harbor ships. So how do you apply that feeling of home with the need and requirement to lead into unknown waters right now?
I think that's a great point, and why home has to be discussed slowly, because on its face it does sound like it's not a metaphor. It makes you think literally of a containment. I think home is safety, but my point about home is that it's not just safe. When you go anywhere and you have a sense of home, I think you're right. First thought is, I feel safe. But my point is, more than safety, it makes you feel alive. So, example, I love baseball, and I probably should have stopped playing it a long time ago, but I still play it. And when I play it, which is outside, away from my house, far away sometimes, I feel a sense of home because I feel alive. So I could be very expansive with whatever I'm doing, whatever idea I have or place I'm going, and I feel that sense of home because of aliveness, not of harborness.
I like that. You could distinguish really between two kinds of safety, and this just kind of came to me, so maybe I'm just making this up, but there's stable safety and there's dynamic safety. The stable safety is the ship in the harbor at anchor. The dynamic safety is the ship on the high seas with a really good captain and a really good crew, right? So it's not just the simple, we got to get out of the harbor at any cost under any circumstances. No, I don't want to go with a bad captain and a bad crew in a poorly made ship, right? So I want to have dynamic safety. That is to say, taking important risks while minimizing unnecessary risks. I think risk management is an important part of any entrepreneurial endeavor. It's an important part of dynamic growth for human beings in business or in life. And that's the ship safe on the seas, right? It's not totally safe, not as safe as it would be in the harbor, but you've done everything you can to make sure it's going to be a successful voyage, not just a voyage, right?
That's great.
Well, that was great. And considering I'm the admiral of the HMS Beagle, I'm going to steer the ship now to Mr. Seth Sparks to turn it over to you. And same question: how did you find out about Corona TV and about this, and what made you stay? And then go straight into your topic.
Sure. So I have followed you, Joe, for a long time, all the way back to even before Life After the Spot, and just have followed you on Facebook and saw you were starting to host what I assumed kind of to be a daily podcast kind of thing. And I'd stopped listening to podcasts during COVID, just sitting around at home. I can't use the part of my brain that I use to listen to podcasts and work at the same time. And so I was missing out on that a lot, but it was a nice, your timing through the lunch hour allows me to sit and distance myself from work a little bit. I can sit and listen, and if I'm lucky, be able to join the after show. But yeah, it just fit, and the guests that you've had on definitely stretched my brain in the way that I expect podcasts and good content too. So that's why I stuck around.
What's on your mind?
So I found an article recently, I guess, that I thought was pretty interesting, and there's a lot of historical anecdotes for this, but recently, I guess, we had to change the name of some human genes because as scientists would try to work with them in Excel wouldn't accept the formatting. And rather than try and recode Excel, we had to change the name of our human genes to be able to work with them in the spreadsheet software. And I thought that was such a perfect point for where we're going with AI and everything, that we can't even use Excel without having to bend our humanness. And it just opens up a whole can of discussion topics. So I figured that'd be a fun one to throw out to the group.
I'm just going to throw it right out to the group. In particular, I know that Tom probably wants to say something.
Well, I just will say that sounds like a classic case of the tail wagging the dog, right? I mean, and it's amazing how often it's like when what was it, the year 2000 thing with everybody worried about computers and everybody was saying, well, nobody thought of this, in advance. I mean, it ended up not being the disaster everybody thought it was, but it's like, how much forethought do we put into stuff? And the higher the stakes are, it's one thing if you have to change the names of some things. What about, you mentioned AI, where the stakes could be very high about not thinking through things well in advance? Just fascinating topic, I think.
Yeah. Well, what about in the next election? I just read that in a primary election, I think it was California, thousands of votes had to be thrown out because people didn't sign their name. I mean, who designed the ballot where it wouldn't be obvious you'd need to sign your name?
Right. Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah. Right. A stupid little thing has a very substantive consequence, right?
I think stupid little things and assumptions. Your comment about the spreadsheets reminded me of reading about the hand sanitizers and soap dispensers that are set to detect color. And if you are a person of color and put your hand underneath it, it doesn't register and doesn't dispense the soap or the hand sanitizer. And just the assumption of usage. So I guess when the human genes were named, they didn't assume that one of their key stakeholders was Excel. But I think that the sense of belonging and the sense of really evaluation and preparation. Right now, we need to look at so many different use cases and stakeholders and scenarios and really pressure test things, businesses, products, gene names, in ways that we hadn't thought of. And so the diversity of a team and the dynamics and the way that we pull together teams, I think fundamentally has changed permanently, and I hope will continue to change. So that we are prepared, and we've got someone who can say, that's not going to work well in Excel, or that's not going to work well with a person of color. I love those changes, and I think for me and for most of us that have been in digital since 90, whatever, I'm constantly Rubik's cubing on patterns and what might go wrong and how things work. And I love those puzzles. And I love the puzzles of thinking about how our lives have changed now and how they're going to be in a year or 2 years, and helping our clients and helping brands prepare for that. Which, without being asked, Joseph, like, you have a phenomenal skill at creating a sense of belonging amongst people that you haven't interacted with and been in the same room with. And I don't know, it's probably been like 5 years since we've been in the same room and 10 years since we've had like a long conversation before CoronaTV. But you immediately created a community amongst us where it feels safe immediately, where there's a sense of belonging and a trust that you can make statements and take risks, and best intention will always be assumed. But a group of people that will Rubik's Cube it the same way and say like, what do I think about that? I love that creativity. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. Who is going to say something?
I was just going to say that I love the term Rubik's cubing, so I'm going to use that in the future.
We're all going to steal that one.
Yeah, definitely. The other thing I was going to say too is that diversity of opinions and diversity of thought definitely is fantastic. I love that you brought that in. The place where it takes me to is also a place where I'm considering the impact that technology has on the media that we use, and really how the media changes us as humans too. So we were used to having one-on-one conversations. Now we're used to doing over Skype, and just like people waving when you say goodbye on Skype. I mean, that's a thing people do now, and people do it at the end of conversations in person as they walk away now. And it's a strange thing, but it's transgressed over into us. But I think about kind of the rules that are in place in media that we typically force ourselves to box ourselves in, but then also, as Jan said earlier, how do we rethink so that we can bend those, like Bernie Sue and what he's doing on Twitch with Artificial, super cool program where the audience is kind of in control of the story in real time, and they have to plan out, and how they do that in COVID is just incredible. But it's things like that, trying to pay attention where people are bending some of those rules too, and so that it's not just us succumbing to the will of the technology we created.
So now you've given me a beautiful sign, which is when it's time to go into a new topic, I'm just going to wave. I'm going to do the Skype wave.
But so it's much nicer than this, you know.
Yeah.
You should just give us technical files.
Yeah, but I can't do that because I'm holding my iPhone while my hand is going to sleep. But you know, this is the new claw. But you know, I'll tell you one thing that. The one thing that there were many things that many different directions that we could have gone down. But for me, I love technology's ability to inject humanity or more humanity or save humanity. It's an opposite point to what Elon Musk is saying. I'll give you even a little example. I don't know that we've quite seen this yet, but we've heard the promise that an Apple Watch has the ability technically to pick up some kind of a arrhythmia or you know, through the EKG, I think it's EKG, and be able to alert maybe your doctor straight away if there's something that's abnormal or a little bit out of what would be considered to be your resting heart rate, etc. And obviously with permissions and settings and blah 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 done. I love the ability for technology to, and I remember once someone saying this. I've used this in a lot of presentations, generally talking about customer service, which is ironic, but you know, the technology is like the sound at a rock concert. Nobody ever comes home and says, man, the sound was unbelievable, the reverb and the bass and the acoustics weren't, like, most of the time that anyone ever mentions the sound at a concert is when it sucks. and technology for me has always been this idea of, you know, the old parochial children should be seen and not heard. I just find technology works best when it is so elegantly invisible, but the ability for it to make these magical connections. I mean, it's happening right now, like literally right now. I'm using an iPhone. I mean, it's remarkable that we're doing this right now, and this is home. I'm actually at home, literally, but also I'm at home figuratively with all of you, and I just love that, and that's what I geek out. I geek out at these moments that I can actually be doing an episode of my show. This could be live right now on Facebook and YouTube, etc. The fact that we're pre-recording it means absolutely nothing. That's kind of magic. It's magic.
Well, the one thing I would say, though, is that the best technology should be invisible, but the fact that it's invisible also makes it potentially dangerous. And so we need to be aware of the effect of that technology on everything that we're doing.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and I'm going to use that segue, to turn it over to you, Chip. And I know how we know each other. We knew each other back in the days when podcasts were a thing. And guess what? They're a thing again.
Indeed. And in fact, I was just reminded a couple of weeks ago that I helped to monetize your first podcast across the sound. Maybe it wasn't your first one, but it was one of them, because my company that I owned at the time, Custom Scoop, bought you the iPhone right after it came out as a way to sponsor an episode.
You did.
So we've known each other for quite a long time. I was a lurker when you first started the show, watching you driving to the clinic and driving around the streets of Connecticut, talking about how empty they were and that sort of thing. And I started participating in the after show, I think after Shell and Neville, my friends who host the FIR podcast network, were on. And it's been great to participate in these. And it's one of the things that I really like about the show is that it's, for me, serendipity. It presents me with the opportunity to learn about a lot of different topics and a lot of different people that I wouldn't otherwise come across.
And by the way, I've put a technology wish list on Amazon if you're looking to sponsor again. I'm just letting you know. I haven't really, but so what's on your mind? I know that we earlier discussed the idea of serendipity. Is that what you want to talk about today?
It was. I was actually, trying to do a proper segue there to try to help it out. But yes. So look,
I appreciated it. So
So, I think we've gone through cycles as a society. And so when mass media first came in, it increased the serendipity because it exposed people to more than just the voices of their own small local communities. But now as technology has taken over, and instead of the linear scheduling of broadcast networks and the print nature of things where you would inevitably flip over stories that you might otherwise skip to get to the one you really wanted, now we have news filters. Now we have our own, private communities that we have online. And so we really have to seek out serendipity now instead of having it as a natural part of our existence. But that serendipity, it's important for innovation. It's important for broadening our thoughts and our perspectives. And so I really think it's important for folks to find a way to seek out that serendipity as much as possible.
I have a lot of thoughts on that, which is, first of all, Mark Masters, who was on the show on Friday, which is today, but when you're watching this, you may not know that. But, he spoke about, and we had an interesting conversation, whether it was on the show or the after show, about the loss of serendipity that comes in a Zoom-enabled era, as opposed to the serendipity of bumping into someone or networking or pretending that you just bumped into them in the elevator when you've been stalking them all night. Not that that's ever happened to me on either side. But Nick Johnson earlier this week, when during the storm, was talking about another loss of serendipity, the ability to bump into someone on the train commuting into the city, as opposed to now working from home. And now you've mentioned as well, I believe that we can. For me, I'm living serendipity with all of you guys. How I've come to meet people for the first time, like you, Tom, and how it's enriched and changed my life. And it all came through networking as well. It just took place in a different way. So I remain idealistic and hopeful that I actually coined a term a few years ago. And it was actually going to be my fourth book before I wrote Zero. And the book was actually called Social Dipity. And it was, the subhead was serendipity in a social enabled world. And how so many relationships that you and I had lived in the early days of social media had come about almost through randomness or circumstance. So I believe that we can find it and emulate it and even improve on it. And I also, like I said earlier today, I believe that technology will help us. I mean, listen, remember, you go to Google's homepage today and you key in something, and they're just two little buttons there. One says search, and the other one says I'm feeling lucky, or it used to. I don't know if it still does. That is serendipity, or social dipity, whatever you want to call it. So I think that we can still create that, or maybe we have to force it. But like this idea of spin the wheel, this idea of I'm feeling lucky, and maybe we need the Facebooks of the world to help us, because they're controlling sometimes and curating. They say curating, we say controlling our feed. That we need to every now and then just spin the wheel and say, I want to get lucky. I want to see someone's post that I haven't seen in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, or maybe even just a complete stranger, like we'd see on Twitter. So I think we can get there. We just might have to work at it.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. It goes back to the last topic, right? You need to be aware of what the technology is doing. And by default, the technology is trying to show you more like that, right? More what you've already seen, more what you've already done, more that they think you will like. And you need to be open to having those other opportunities. And while all of the shutdowns and quarantines and all that have eliminated some of that physical serendipity, it has created new serendipity, like this group here. I mean, most of these folks I have not known previously. And so this is an opportunity to hear from a lot of people and start to get to know new people, much in the same way that I might if I were at a train station or a restaurant or a bar or something like that, running into people there.
Absolutely. And Tom, I mean, you mentioned something earlier on our, on the show today, which was meaning yesterday, meaning last week. You know what I mean? This idea of openness, right? Openness, being open to the universe, open to opportunity, open to possibility. And it must be so easy just to become closed or give into that urge, especially during tough times.
Yeah, that's right. I came across a quote today. I can't remember who it was attributed to, but it was something like, say yes and then figure it out. Almost like this idea of dynamic safety, right? There are two sides to everything, like technology. I call it the double power principle. Everything that has great power for good has equal and opposite power for ill. It's up to us how we're going to use it. So we build in risk management. We build in Rubik's cubing, all the possibilities. We build in, it puts a greater responsibility on us, especially in an era of technology. To think through the possible implications of what we're doing and how it can be used well, how it can be, and we're not going to game out all the ways it can be used well. And I think that's your point, Joseph, that there's going to be this social dipity. I'm going to use all these new words I'm learning today. There's going to be this social dipity that we could not have anticipated, really, and we're pleasantly surprised by it. So if we can manage the downsides and keep there from being tremendous downsides, and then be open to upsides that can't even be predicted. See, that's a wonderful thing. And when you're talking about Rubik's cubing, you're not talking about predicting, forecasting, like futurists, right? They can't even get the 10-day forecast right, on the Weather Channel, right? It's 10 days, so that by the time we get to day 10, we will forget what they said to start with, right? So I came across a New York Times headline 2 days ago from 2012, and here's the headline: why 2020 is going to be such an awesome year, right? That just shows how good we are at predicting stuff.
Well,
it's awesome, just maybe not in the way we expected.
We talked about this on this show, how...
No, that's just me saying 2020 is a bad year.
Okay, I thought you were the producer. I thought you were the producer on that.
No, you know the signs. Bye. Right. Thank you.
I think we were talking about this before.
Now we've lost
technology.
Yeah. I thought that was me, so I just froze. I just decided I wouldn't breathe. I wouldn't move.
Did you do that to Jan then? I mean, you hexed him, you froze his frame right there.
Give him
there he is, he's back.
That was beautiful artwork when those circles were going.
Jan, we could not agree with you more.
We were hoping your iPhone had not sent a signal to your doctor. It was just technology.
Yeah, what Amy brought up is something that actually has a basis in Stoicism and philosophy and meditation, and that is this idea of feeling overwhelmed by problems. You know, sitting with your spouse or a colleague and saying, "Shit, you know, oh, guess what happened today?" And then your colleague looking at you or your loved one saying, "Well, it doesn't sound that terrible to me," and making you realize that every day you've got a Rubik's Cube that's changed and is put in front of you. Every day there are problems. Did you think that you're going to come to a point where it was going to stop? I mean, before you die? So take that Rubik's Cube, you know? Love it. Love it.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Are you impressed with me basically that I'm able to like do things like go solo layout and you know every time I do something I'm like you just couldn't let it go, Joe. You couldn't just let it. You were in such a good place. You had to go and try and make it tougher.
That's actually, I'm just glad I had a summer associate to go grab me my Rubik's Cube.
And that you were able to text without us seeing. Joseph, I was actually getting onto something like we're all talking about, you know, technology and safety, and like all of us are adrenaline junkie, risk takers, breaking stuff on purpose. Like, Joseph, come on, like you had it down, you had a model that was working. Like, let's take it into the backyard on my iPod and see if I can, like, you're trying to break it.
Trying hard.
Trying hard.
Succeeding.
And, you know, you're like, just, you know, say yes. Like, I say yes to everything. Like, supposedly I'm supposed to start saying no to things. Like, ooh, yeah, I want to join a discussion that is in like a couple hours and I have no time to prepare for it because you know what? I love this. And the adrenaline is what makes my brain fire. I love problems. I love thinking about like, ooh, what about that? Or I could really fail at this. Let's jump in. And I think to some extent from what I've heard, all of us are like that. We've all been in comfortable spots and intentionally moved off them. And to me, like Corona-ness is like my perfect situation. I love to be useful. I am great in a crisis. I love to Rubik's Cube on what might possibly happen, but also to solve for problems that are happening right now. And they might be small. I'm Minnesotan, and as my husband from Boston put it, we're aggressively helpful. But I think that where we're most useful as marketers right now is in that comfort of being uncomfortable, and that we intentionally put ourselves in these spots of discomfort or breaking things or risk or any myriad of things could go wrong at any point. And apparently we like it because we keep doing it, no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, the one thing that I'll tell you where I've struggled a little bit with Corona TV is that there are some people that are hurting mightily, you know, physically, financially, mentally, and you know, I created a show about hope, positivity, and optimism, and grit, and resilience, and determination, and spirit, all of this stuff, but there are still people that will hear what we say, and this idea of bring it on and bring on the challenge and let's figure it out and it's okay to fail. All the things that, Amy, you and I, we hold dear to our heart, but they can't let that in. It's so foreign to them, and it feels so at odds because they're despairing that they almost get angry. They almost get kind of angry at if not at me, at everyone, and want to lash out. And I haven't quite figured out how to bridge the gap or the chasm, which is, hey, listen, we're, you know, this too shall pass. Like the whole idea that says this is, you know, I mean, I think Henk Kampfer from one of the most profound after shows that we had when we spoke about 2020 sucking, that all came from you, Jan. And what we agreed on and we reconciled is that individually 2020 sucks.
I think Mr. Michael Meisters is waving.
But holistically, from a humanity standpoint, 2020 has just been the most incredible year in terms of raising our collective consciousness and promoting the advancement of these ideals and these struggles that have been dormant or pushed aside. So I don't know what you guys think about that. It's a very heavy concept, but that's what it made me think of, Amy. It really pushed me.
Something leapt to mind right away, that when you're trying to be a realistic optimist in a difficult situation, you're not diminishing anyone's suffering. Rather, you're ennobling that suffering. If you can show people how suffering has played a paradoxically, spiritually amazing role throughout human history. I've met so many people who've gone through, one guy, a British philosopher who was an athlete in every possible way. He was like every sport you can think of. And he was in an automobile accident and became quadriplegic. And I had a chance to talk to him 3 or 4 years after his accident. And he said, if I could go back and decide whether to have the accident or not, I would have it all over again, because of the spiritual depth that's brought into my life and what I've learned that is too precious to have missed. Now, as a healthy guy, I feel like I'm standing on sacred ground to even talk about something like that. But, and I've got this new book out, Plato's Lemonade Stand. The old saying, when life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Well, how do you do it? Turns out the great philosophers thought of suffering as raw material for transformative things that we can do in our lives. And we're never going to avoid suffering. And you're right. And there are people who are going through a lot more than those of us who are on the screen right now. And it's almost like, can we redeem what they're having to go through to some tiny extent by finding ways to turn this situation into as many good things as possible? It's not that we're betraying them by doing that. No, quite the opposite, right? We're trying to honor what they're going through. So while never wanting for a second for anybody to be suffering through this the way they are, those of us who can are going to try to make the most of it possible.
Yeah, I think when I think of Viktor Frankl being in a situation where it is the extreme, and others who are in that situation like they're in now, what is it that we could bring if they were looking at the screen now through their ventilator? I don't think they'd want to hear a show that makes them go deeper. I think they'd want to hear a show that lights them up in whatever ways that could happen that I can't even imagine. And I think Viktor Frankl talked about the difference between pain, which is inevitable, and suffering, which is really kind of an option. He redefined suffering. And one other thing, I don't think I've ever felt like this show, over the course of its amazing consecutive daily appearances, has ever shied away from diving into the dark and the deep. So I feel like we've plumbed those areas, and we continue to. And I think there's some equanimity there that we've balanced.
I want to ask Amy a quick follow-up question, and I think even our format today, I think, is taking on an interesting role where Steve Garfield is next, but then I think, I want to see if anyone else wants to just keep has a topic and wants to add, if I haven't come to you yet. But I have a new one. I'm no philosopher, Tom, but my new one, because when I did an appearance yesterday for the You Are the Media, I was wearing a special shirt of mine. And so a la lemons and lemonade, my one is, when life gives you poop, turn it into a poop emoji. So, because that's what I had. I was wearing my poop emoji shirt because the poop emoji is always smiling. So I don't know that I'm a philosopher, but that was the best contribution that I could give.
That's as well as many of them have done. So congratulations on that.
So Amy, my question for you is, this level of discomfort or making marketers uncomfortable, do you think for the most part that marketers are moving forward and have taken this opportunity, this gift in the big pause, in this, in this introspection. Do you feel marketers are going to, for the most part, be better when we kind of somehow leave COVID behind us, or at least deal with COVID? Or do you think that the hole that they've maybe been digging, is just gets deeper and deeper and deeper?
Marketers that would have been how we would have defined marketers of the past, I think, are done. I think that I don't really have a choice to be an optimist, to be a let's enjoy the ride of breaking things. Things are broken. I could sit here and tell you all the things that are wrong. I could tell you my husband's unemployed. I could tell you that my client decided they're not going to pay a $30,000 bill. I could tell you those things, but that's just not how I present myself or to the world. What I choose to do instead is, no matter what happens, like, I could lose my house, I could lose my job, I could lose everything. I could be living in a tent in the woods, but you know what? My tent is going to rock and we're going to survive no matter what. And the people that I care about and the people that are around me, we're going to be just fine. What fine is may well be something we've never imagined. It may not be as good as it was before, but quite frankly, I think we've all discovered that wasn't that great. So, the Plato's Lemonade, prisoners chained to a wall of a cave, unable to recognize that they are bound. I think we were all unable to recognize how bound we really were. And now we're out in the sunshine. Some of us are burning up a bit. Many of the brands, look at all the companies, all the restaurants, all the retail brands that are done. Mm-hmm. So who's going to market for them? There is no marketing for them. Those companies are over. And we will learn from that, and we will pivot, and there will be demand again, and there will be needs for new products and needs for new services. And we will take care of the people that have done great work, and we will help them to reinvent, and we will help them to learn. And we will reach out and include those that bring opinions and diversity and experience that has been glaringly absent. I don't like being the only woman on a call. I don't like that there aren't any people of color on this call. I don't like that we're all of a certain background and a certain educational stance, from what I can tell by the vocabulary and the conversation on Plato. I don't like that, and I don't want that anymore. And I'm going to fight hard to bring the people that I know have perspectives that are missing, because they're brilliant and they're creative and they have the need for the pace that we have and that is required to thrive in marketing. So I think marketing's done the way that it was. I'm super excited for what's going to come next, and I'm empathetic, and my heart hurts, like physically, my throat right now, like when you mention the things, like I hurt. I'm a very empathic person, and I know that I will do everything I can to care for the people that are hurting and that are at risk, and that maybe they need a place to stay. Maybe they need someone to help make an introduction. Maybe they need me to give them a $500 job this week so they can make their mortgage. I will do that. And I believe firmly that the world is good, and that while marketers have had a really crappy reputation of being opportunistic and making people feel that they're lacking, that has not been my experience. And I'm excited for that to be at the forefront of marketing and brand leadership as we go through whatever is ahead, which I think is going to be darker, by the way.
I mean, I love what you said, and let me tell you, if it was my way, it would just be white men on this call, but I wasn't able. No, I mean, listen, it's been a huge, don't anybody clip that. It's been a huge thrust of mine, which is to strive actively for inclusivity and diversity, and I feel the same way. What I've also learned is that, I've done it. I mean, I've even been very self-deprecating about it, as I just was, just now, which is when I look at my guests for the following week, I go, yep, I've done it again. It's another week of white men. But at the same time, it's more important for me to make sure that every single guest contributes and can stand their own ground. And it's been hard. You know, it's another struggle we have. It's a big struggle that we have. But I'll tell you, and if you're watching this right now out there, you know, you bring me, recommend guests. I will give everyone that has a voice a voice. I will give everyone that wants a platform a platform. My bar is low when it comes to opportunity, but it's high when it comes to giving people a chance. As in high, as in I will let you soar over that. And that's how it's going to be on Corona TV. And I will tell you one thing that has been so amazing for me throughout this journey is that the more famous the person, the more difficult the experience is. You know, the more of a headache it is. It's the people that it's the people I don't know or I've never heard of, or the people that just surprise me, like happy public philosophers that creates real meaningful bonds. And so it's been an amazing journey as well, where, and I will be honest, and then we're going to move over to Steve, because we're almost going to run out of time, that I don't know that I want marketers on the show anymore, even though I've said it's a show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. If you're a marketer and you want to come on the show, you better bring a bigger, better, real story. And you better be authentic, and you better be transparent, and you better keep it real. Otherwise, there's no place for you on Corona TV.
Well, I will offer something. In your mission to increase the diversity, for those that are watching this right now, Joseph, if you find a topic, a person who has an experience that's worthwhile, I will help coach them and vet them and support them to be successful and feel a sense of belonging on here. I will donate 5 hours of my time to do that.
Very good.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's beautiful. You know, this whole thing is evolving, and even today, the beauty of the show, and I really do credit Steve Garfield for this, who's pushed me on the Zoom after show. This show today doesn't happen without the Zoom after show, without the regulars. But guess what? I've just in my mind seen, wait a second, once a month we do a show like this, and it's all the Zoom after show regulars, and it's not a gratuitous thing as well. And I can do up to 9 people on this screen at the same time. So that's 9 plus me is 10. And you know what? That might be an incentive for people to show up, and it may not be. But I'll tell you, this is awesome. I'm loving this.
I like to take the inspiration from Amy and offer to any business that's looking on similarly. You know, that I'm happy to help to give some type of time of outline for branding, marketing, strategy that can help get them on their way, get over a hump in the road. So thank you, Amy, for doing that. I mean, this should be about how to get things done as well.
Right, and I want to say one more thing, and then Steve, I think you know you're going to bring us home, and if your topic is slightly less heavy than some of them, that would be perfect. And I think I know what you want to talk about, so I think it is going to be. But I just, you know, I want to push it back out to everyone, which is Corona TV for now and for the foreseeable future is free. The Zoom after show is open to everyone. I learn every single day of my life from the show, and I'm inspired every single day of my life, and you guys can be. And there's no excuse to sit back, and this is the thing that we also heard on today's show, as in last week's show, as in last month's show, which is, I don't want to see anybody post to Facebook, I've just come to the end of Netflix, now what? If you're one of those people, you wasted your time. You wasted your time when you could have been learning, inventing, reinventing, being inspired, inspiring others. But guess what? There's still time. So stop with the Netflix and the Primes and everything, and immerse yourself in inspiration and intellectual property, because it's all over us. It's all around us. Steve Garfield, bring us home, baby.
This show is so great because, like, I've mentioned to you before, Jay Rosen of NYU calls us all the people formerly known as the audience. And
I emailed him to come on the show.
And he
Jay
should
Rosen,
come on the show.
you're
And
welcome.
I tagged him on Twitter. And I think it's really valuable that we get to be part of this together. So you want to know about how we initially met, and I'll have to talk about a little bit before we met, January 1st of 2004. For those of you who don't know, I was one of the first video bloggers deciding, why couldn't they make it easy to put video on the web like they made it easy to put words on the web? So I took a blog and I took video and I made Steve Garfield's video blog. And that was January 1st, 2004.
Wow.
And then there was a Yahoo group, and all I think about is helping others do it better. Then it came to 2008 when Jimmy Fallon was starting Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. And before he started the TV show, he started a video blog. So I was really into it because I love TV and I want to see the behind the scenes of it. And Jimmy Fallon said, hey, everybody, this is my video blog, and we're going to have a new video blog every day. So as someone who was one of the early video bloggers, I didn't want him to say that wrong. So I sent him a message and I said, in a video message, because he asked for viewers to send in videos. And I said, hey, Jimmy, you're not going to have a new video blog every day, because that would mean a whole new URL and everything. You're going to have a new video on the blog every day. So then on that Friday of his video blog show, he said, hey, let's look at videos from our viewers. Our first one is from Steve Garfield. And he played that video and he said to the camera, okay, I get it, Steve. We're going to have a new video blog every day. Then what happened was the next week he made it a segment. Each week you send in a video. So I sent in another video. And so when he introduced my video that next Friday, he said, hey, it's our old pal, Steve Garfield. And he played the video on his video blog. And this was really cool and exciting. And then he came out with Late Night with Jimmy Fallon. Then Joe Jaffe invited me to be a blogger at CES for Panasonic. So this was very exciting. We went to Las Vegas and they gave us all kinds of equipment. Actually, they gave us this camera. I still have it. You need to return this, Joe.
Well, I remember it.
Camera. And guess who was at CES? It was Jimmy Fallon. So I went up to him and I found out where he was going to be at the booth he was at. And I went, hey, Jimmy Fallon. And he said, hey, Steve Garfield. Because that's what we call you at the show. We call you one word, Steve Garfield. So it was really fun to meet him. And I did a video interview with him. And he let me do an interview. And that was very cool. And so he thanked me for helping him with tips. And I communicated with the show. It became a friend of his and helped him do his show. And then I went to New York City and I met him backstage and I did a video. So this is part of who I am and what I do. And then I recently, when Joseph started CoronaTV again, I was like, okay, here's another show I can help. So I started emailing Joseph, do this. This is how you can do this better and that better. And that's brings us back to today.
And by the way, whether I ask for the help or not, whether I want it or not, and I would say 95% of the time I've listened. I've been good.
Pretty good. But you know, Garfield, I think you got to give us a timeline when Jaffe's going to be on Fallon.
He promises nothing, but I'll tell you, if you learn a best practice about Steve, it's about there are many things. There's humility, there is being very pragmatic, there's being very grounded, there's persistence, but it's persistence that's more about endurance, and above all, it's always about adding value and utility. And so the relationship that he built with Jimmy Fallon, which is why I've never, ever asked him to contact Jimmy Fallon on my behalf. I would never do that, because that relationship is an important one for him and between them. And so but I've seen what he does and how smart he is, how he'll message a show, or how he'll indicate first and foremost to say, I'm watching, I'm paying attention. He gives before he asks, before he takes, before he asks back. And I think, at the end of the day, I'm going to it's 1 hour, and I'm going to try and always be diligent about keeping a show at 1 hour. So if you didn't get to come up with a topic or add a topic, I hope you will forgive me. But ultimately, all of you share one common trait, and it's a very powerful one, and that is generosity. Even being, jumping on this and obliging me and being a part of this. But I know that for everything that the 6 of you gave today, you also received in return, not from me, but from each other. And I appreciate this. And if you like this, and if this was valuable to you today, we'll do it again.
Sounds good.
Love it.
So I want to thank all of you guys. And if everything goes well, I'll be able to play my little outro. Unfortunately, that is going to be saying that the after show starts now. There's no after show today. But if you like this, please email one of these guys, Steve, Tom, Jan, Chip, Amy, or Seth, if you know them, or email me and just let us know what you liked about this. And, and if you didn't like anything about it, it's too goddamn bad, because I liked it. So take care of yourselves, and I'll be back soon, I guess. Bye, everyone.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.